Hi, everyone. Welcome to Third Party, a Microsoft support show. My name is Tipper O'Brien. I'm joined by Mike Jones, our VP of Product Development here at US Cloud. And today we're going to talk about the Microsoft partner ecosystem. So, Mike, let's get it kicked off.
All right.
Who's in the partner ecosystem? What types of companies generally, and what do they do?
Yeah, so the way Microsoft's partner ecosystem is really set up is it's a multitude of networks of different organizations that are set up for different specialty areas. So example, there are ISVs, or what they call independent support vendors, that essentially those software vendors create niche products. They could be an application that they've developed and they're selling within the Microsoft ecosystem to provide a certain type of service related to Microsoft products. There are resellers, or we call them VARs, value-added resellers. Essentially, they are reselling either solutions or products or hardware in addition to Microsoft licensing and software services. There are solution partners who really focus on more services related, so more turning the gears, if you will. It could be implementations, migrations, it could be assessment products, really focused on the Microsoft architecture stack. Those are typically your most common Microsoft partners in the ecosystem. There are additional ones like LSPs or VARs, which are essentially licensing providers. So they only focus on either EAs, MCEs, customer-related contracts specific to Microsoft products and services from a software standpoint. So those are really how the ecosystem is kind of built. They all provide different levels of service that really categorize them and the solution stack. So it can vary by partner. A partner could be multiple. It could be an ISV where they're a software vendor and developed a software product, but they're also a solution provider and provide services around different types of Microsoft areas. Some partners can be transactional or hardware vendors where they can sell different OEM products like Cisco hardware with Microsoft services on top of it, because there is a lot of interconnectivity between the Microsoft stack and other solution products.
Okay, so lots of different options there. What about how are they classified? I know that there are different tiers that partners are sort of sorted into. How does that work?
Yeah, so it's going to change very soon, by the way, but currently there are essentially 3 tiers of levels for a Microsoft partner. There are different solution specializations, which we'll jump into in a second, but essentially it's a tiered structure model. So a Microsoft partner that meets certain competencies and requirements, essentially there are 3 tiers. There's bronze, silver, and gold. Gold being the highest, which most partners will try to attain based on the requirements, because essentially to a customer, they're really only going to look for a gold partner unless they have a long-term relationship or strategic partnership with a silver or bronze partner. By no means does this mean that the bronze or silver partners are not as adequate or competent to provide those solutions, but there are benefits associated to being in a higher tiered partnership as a designation. So the gold standard, if you will, gets access to more funding, more services funded by Microsoft for their customers. So it ends up being, in the long run, more advantageous for a customer to look at a gold tier membership. Now, with those types of 3-tier model, that's the old Microsoft way. Microsoft is changing that and really focusing on what they call solutions designations. So these designations will be right now in 6 different technology areas. As an example, data and AI will be its own solution designation. There's Azure Cloud, there's modern work. So there's 6 different categories currently that partners can attain. They can attain multiple, so all 6. They can attain 1 and be a specialty and focus really on those product stacks. So from that standpoint, the solution designation is going to be the new evolution of the partner standard and how you classify a partner. So the 3-tier model will kind of fade away over time. They are grandfathering in silver and gold partners to, if they qualify for the requirements of the new designations in those core 6 areas, they will essentially roll over into this program. And then it's essentially a yearly attainal. So you attain it by meeting these requirements every year, and there'll be additions to that as Microsoft sees fit. So essentially what they'll do is they'll come in and say, here's the requirements for your renewal on your designation this year. Here's what you have to do to attain it. Now, those changes are going to be coming soon. Microsoft hasn't really announced officially when those go into effect. We believe it to be this fiscal year. So partners are already starting to work towards that attainment and designation. What it'll do is it'll give them basically more benefits, similar to how the old tier structure worked, where they'll get funding options, they'll get access to certain offerings that they can pass on to their customer base. So it's really advantageous for those customers to look at those as well. When it comes down to those partnerships and designations, I think they'll add more in the future. I think a support designation is a really important one that's going to be coming very, very soon. Knock, knock. So that is something that I think will be happening very soon for customers. And what essentially it does is, in order for a partner to qualify for these new solution designation, they essentially have to score what Microsoft calls a capability score in 3 primary areas. So there is essentially skilling, there is customer success, and essentially attainment, or what they call performance. So the performance essentially is how many customers are you adding through the Microsoft Partner Network? How are you accrediting yourself or attaching yourself to these customers from a Microsoft partnership standpoint? So there are relationships essentially on the back end that you create that ties you to a particular customer in an area of solution, and you essentially get credit for that from a partnership standpoint. The skilling really comes around competency and certification levels. So when it comes to skilling, you have to attain X amount based on each solution designation area you're trying to achieve, certain certifications of individuals in more technology related aspects to attain the skilling score capable to achieve that for your organization. So everyone has a different requirement behind that they have to attain. The last one is more around the customer additions, or customer success, as they call it. And essentially that customer success is, once you do have customers within your partnership relationship model, how are you expanding their portfolio of Microsoft services? That could be adding additional cloud that they're using, cloud licensing. It could be expanding from one technology to a second technology and really entrenching that second technology into their organization. So example, if you are selling Azure licensing, infrastructure as a service to a customer, and then you move in and implement Office 365 licensing, like E5 licensing for this customer, and start deploying those technologies, now you have 2 different areas, and that's what they consider the customer success side. How do I expand those products and offerings beyond when they added them as a regular partner? So those 3 areas essentially will create what's called a capability score. And in order to attain these designations, it's the composition of those 3 things put together that gives you a score on your partner login that you can essentially see and help you attain that. You can track that within the partner center, so partners will know where they stand right away. They know how to build that out and attain those certain designation levels.
So let's say I am a successful and growing Microsoft partner. How do I connect in sort of to the mothership? What's that relationship like? And let's take it from a perspective, since we're in the support business, of support specifically.
So essentially, from a support model, Microsoft has unified support, right? That is direct to Microsoft, where you're receiving support through a contract. From a partner standpoint, essentially there's a couple of different models of support and how they attach back to Microsoft proper, the OEM. You can call it whatever you want. Essentially, there is a CSP model, so a cloud solution provider model, which essentially is Microsoft kind of outsourcing the licensing transact through the partner. So essentially, partner is selling direct to their customer for licensing. but they are essentially buying that from Microsoft to resell through their own product services. So essentially you're working directly with a partner, but the partner is buying, essentially transacting with Microsoft on the back end. You're dealing with the partner. The partner is essentially required to provide level 1, level 2 support, so base support on the offerings that they're selling you, but they typically bundle in their own managed services or help desk solution on top of the licensing cost for a customer. So it's kind of a one-stop shop. The partner then receives that direct or first line support from the customer. And Microsoft expects that the partner has the capability and the skill in-house to handle L1, L2, or base level support for that customer. The partner then has Microsoft typically through another type of contract, and that could be one of a few different flavors. There are advanced support for partners. There is premier support for partners. They're both different levels. Difference being advanced support for partners is cloud-only support through Microsoft. You don't receive any on-prem or hybrid support for that. There's very limited proactive or advisory services included in that. You don't really have access to the full services catalog that Microsoft gives to either direct customers or through the Premier. With Premier, essentially that is kind of the highest level. You have access to on-prem and cloud-based support. You have critical situation management attached to that as well. So if your customer has a crit sit issue, you can go direct through that partner. The partner then has escalation capabilities to Microsoft on your behalf. And essentially they have critical situation management or account teams that are dedicated to support critical situations for customer environments. So those different tier levels, partners will then purchase based on their operating model. They will purchase one of a few different contracts for support. And then essentially they, on behalf of the customer, can engage Microsoft directly on behalf of that customer for support using those contract hours. So it's a very similar approach to the old Premier Classic model. It varies from how unified support works today, because unified support's kind of that buffet, all you can eat model based on your licensing. So user, server, and cloud spend. This is more of a needs-based support model, similar to how we at US Cloud handle that for our customers.
Let's talk about that. So sort of piggybacking on the end of your answer there, how is US Cloud set up specifically in relation to Premier or Unified?
Yeah, so essentially we follow a like-for-like alternative to the old Premier Classic model for Microsoft. So unlike the unified model, which can be very pricey for some customers and may not fit the level of support that they actually require, with US Cloud, we take a different approach. Our approach and our product is based on a needs-based support need. We base that estimate essentially to bucket of hours, almost like a time and materials model, where you have a negotiated hourly rate, where you buy a bucket of hours over a period of contract, typically 12 months. And over that 12-month typical contract length, you have those hours to utilize for many different services. Another differentiator between US Cloud and the old Premier Classic model is we don't make you estimate reactive, proactive, and service delivery, or what they used to call TAM time, in different buckets. We actually condense that into a singular bucket. There is no different than an hour of reactive or problem resolution time. So those are all condensed into a single bucket. We do that for simplicity. And essentially customers can leverage us for really one of three main different solution areas that we provide. We provide 24/7, 365 reactive or problem resolution services. We provide a proactive, or think of it as a implementation project-based services or advisory services. And we provide consulting, or similar to Microsoft's old DSE or dedicated support engineer model. So core bucket, proactive, reactive, TAM hours, all built in. Our add-on, which is the only add-on to our service at this point, is the consulting bucket of hours. That's a dedicated resource over that period of time.
All right, so now that I know the types and tiers of partners in the ecosystem, if I'm selecting a partner specifically for support, what do I need to keep in mind?
So it's really dependent upon what the customer requirements are. Are you looking for a partner that's going to handle a primary support chain of your organization, aka like 24-hour reactive problem resolution services? Is the customer looking for consulting or project-based services with advisory? Here's everything. Looking at your organization internally and saying, okay, we have core competencies in these areas. We're really strong here. This is where we need help. Helps you create a roadmap for success when you're looking for a partner.
How do you gauge that? How do you know going into a call or a meeting that the partner that you're looking at can deliver what you really need?
There's a lot of different options. There are a lot of partners that are just jumping into this space. I would suggest you probably try to avoid that. There's a lot of partners that are expanding into this space because they are a partner in another area or designation. You should go to your third-party analyst like a Gartner or an Infotech or Directions on Microsoft. They are a great resource to provide you with the information, and they've done their research on this as well. There's also capabilities to go out there and ask for client reference calls. When you're in negotiations with a potential partner and you're vetting their services, really ask, once you get through that contract negotiation stage and you think it's a legitimate option for your business, ask for client reference calls. It's very important.
What about POCs or ensuring that geographic coverage is appropriate for you? Are those things that you should?
Some partners like US Cloud provides a low risk trial proof of concept where you can get in and you have access to all the services, and essentially it's a cancel for convenience or an opt-out clause within the first 30, 60 days of the contract. It's not just the story, it's also, when the rubber hits the road, what does the service look like? So giving customers that option gives them a little bit more peace of mind and a little bit more less risk profile when they're looking at a third-party support option other than Microsoft.
What about SLAs? I know there's been a lot of talk in the industry about SLAs just sort of being thrown out there.
Yeah.
What do they mean anything? What should a buyer look for from an SLA perspective?
Easy. Financially backed SLAs. Do they have skin in the game? Microsoft support currently today has SLOs and SLTs. They don't have financial skin in the game. There's no assurance as a customer when you walk into Unified that they will answer and engage within the time that you need. Not all partners that are in the support landscape they're trying to provide a similar service that we do. So it's very important to at least ask when you're looking at those and evaluating, do you have financially backed SLAs? We do it in the form of service hours or credits back to a customer. So if we happen to miss an SLA around our initial response time or our engagement time, we credit hours back to that customer. So that's contractually bound. It's baked into our MSA agreement with the customer. Does the other partner have it? In my experience, it's very few and far between that do have that. Most of them will have SLOs or SLTs.
Got it. Great. Well, thank you very much for your time, Mike. Appreciate it. That's all the time that we have today. Thanks for joining us for Third Party and Microsoft Support Show. Please feel free to go to our website at uscloud.com and look for future shows. Thank you. So now that I know the types and tiers, let me try again. So now that I know the types and tiers.
There's a good outtake for you. Should put that in the intro or the credits roll.
That's great. We're all having a good time.